Today, we're going to be talking about lead generation and what companies, what sales professionals should be doing, and the opportunities and the choices that either sales professionals, executives, particularly entrepreneurs, and what they should be doing. Welcome to the Ugly Truth podcast, the Ugly Truth About Sales podcast, live out of Miami, Fort Lauderdale, hosted by me, Victor Arocho. This podcast is about the reality of sales perceptions, executions, and the hollow statements that entrepreneurs, CEOs, and salespeople make. We discuss how to get past these ugly truths by taking action. We interview successful entrepreneurs, executives, sales professionals who share their experiences, how they've succeeded by following best practices, not only to grow their own businesses, but to grow the businesses of others. Okay? If you haven't yet, please follow me on Twitter at VArocho. That's AROCHO, V for Victor. Or go to YouTube, look up Victor Arocho, and I have a ton of podcasts there. I have a ton of training videos there, and please use them however you would like, and hopefully that helps you grow your company and yourself. Today's guest host, I have the pleasure of having David Kreiger. He is the founder and president of SalesRoads, a business-to-business appointment setting, lead generation, and sales outsourcing company. He has been named as one of the most influential leaders in sales and management by the SLMA for the last 4 years running. David has led SalesRoads through significant growth, and the company has twice been listed on the Inc. 5000 as one of the fastest growing privately held companies. David is consulting some of the biggest and largest and fastest growing companies to help their organization accelerate sales through proactive teleprospecting. Welcome to the show, David.
Thanks, Victor. Great to be here.
Great. Well, I appreciate the time. And one more thing that my entrepreneur friend and so forth, got to give him credit. He is a Wharton grad. Went to University of Pennsylvania, so I got to give him a lot of props. He's super smart. So, David, I have some questions, and we want to talk about your company and then how we can help other people. And then you understand the when I say the hollow truths, where a quick example is when people say, manage what you can't manage what you can't measure. And what I found in my experiences in meeting with entrepreneurs and businesses of companies from 5 to 100 million, that it's hollow because they're not measuring stuff, because they're not taking the right data to measure to move to be more successful. So if you don't have the data to measure, how could you manage it? Right? So
absolutely.
My first question for you in what you do is, what misunderstandings in your journeys, not particular clients, prospective clients or clients, and I'm sure you sat down with some of these companies with multiple decision makers, what misunderstandings or misconceptions do sales leaders have on obtaining qualified appointments?
Yeah. So, the first thing that comes to mind, and I think, part of the reason it rings hollow is we hear it over and over and over again, is cold calling is dead. The thing is that cold calling is dead if you're doing it the same way that you were doing it 10 years ago and even 5 years ago. But if you aren't having your reps, or if you don't have a team of SDRs that are intelligently cold calling, and just having them use, email, or just use LinkedIn, or maybe not prospect at all because you think that cold calling is dead, I'll be honest, you're going to be dead. Your competition is going to eat your lunch because they're figuring out how to prospect, do intelligent cold calling in 2019. And I believe in many ways that this is the golden age of cold calling. or targeted proactive outreach. We've been in sales a long time, right, Victor? Like, when before have we been able, before even picking up a phone or writing an email or reaching out in any way, know so much about a prospect, right? Not only their resume, right, on LinkedIn, but the things that they like, the things that they're engaged in, the things that they're commenting on. We can eavesdrop on their conversations, right, on LinkedIn and LinkedIn groups and things like that. Like, when before? If you had told somebody who was prospecting 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that you could know all this before even picking up the phone, they'd be say you're crazy. And so cold calling is dead if you're doing it the same way. You're not leveraging these tools. But I really do believe that when you do it right, and I see it time and again for our clients, for people that I speak with, that when you do it right, we're in the golden age of cold calling. You gotta incorporate all these amazing tools into your outreach.
Interesting. So you mentioned a couple pieces that I want to address. And for those of you watching, the reason why I haven't shaved, this is like 3 weeks it takes me. And Movember's coming. Movember is awareness for prostate cancer for men. And usually I start in November, but the problem is it takes so long for me to grow something that looks decent. I figure I started in October.
Okay.
So I want to let you know. A shout out to Rutgers. I wear a different college shirt every day. My son goes to Florida State, and my daughter, Hurricane fan, but I'm a Noles fan. That's where my kids go. So I just want to let you know what we're doing here. So a couple things. One, I wanted to state what it was real quick for our listeners. SLMA, what organization is that? I don't want to mess it up. I know some organizations that have the same initials. So
so it's the Sales and Lead Management Association. So they really, it's all about lead generation. So it's really one of the only or most important lead generation associations. Just focuses on top of the funnel type of work.
Awesome. And then let the listeners know, what is an SDR? Because sometimes they don't know what an SDR is.
Yeah, so it's a sales development representative that really works on that cold prospecting. So helping the account executives, and there's lots of words for that, but people who are really trying to close deals to really work that top of the funnel for them, nurture new prospects, find new prospects that are good fits for that company's product, warm them up, get a qualified appointment, and then pass that over to the account executive to then take that through the sales pipeline.
Interesting. And that goes back to where sales is really going to, that it should have been a long time ago, where it's in sales specialization by each part of the sales process. And Totally. It's always been happening. It's always been around in complex sales, particularly in engineering or technology, because you'd have a person getting it started. They weren't really an SDR, but then it would go to a sales engineer, and then it would work its way through, and sometimes to a closer. So there could be 4 people involved in a sale based on the size. It's the SDR today. I think is very important, but a lot of companies don't understand. They want salespeople to go from cradle to grave, right? When I say cradle to grave, they want do your own lead assessment, unless you're doing some great marketing and it's coming in, and then salespeople get complacent, which is terrible, or they get frustrated because they have to do all the work that they need to do. But that's part of life. You got to. That's what this is about. You have options. You either work with a company like SalesRoads, or you have to develop your own and figure out how to get these leads to the next level, or you need to teach what we're going to talk about a little bit of how to do some lead generation, which you mentioned a little bit. And then I'm going to go. I'm just going to ask the next one. We're going to talk about like the research preparation. Funny you said a long time ago, I'm 54, so I've been in sales all my life and running multiple companies and leading companies. There was a time that, when I was traveling, depending on, I was a lot of in the insurance business. We went at the distribution insurance agencies. Where I would travel, there used to be yellow pages in the hotel rooms. So I'd go to my section and rip out the entire list, and that's how I got my list, right? And even to the point that I had to buy a map book, right? I had to buy a map book to be able to get around. Today, I can go to Google Maps. I can route my maps. I mean, so I'm just going back to what was we're doing the same thing today that I learned from my mentor on Fridays, is that the only thing that's changed are the tools, the vehicle to do the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is faster, more efficient. But on the opposite end, our clients are more intelligent, right? Because they're looking online. So, so how does the company?
Or Victor, just to even stop you there, because I think it's an important point, because I think a lot of people do talk about how buyers are more intelligent, right? They've researched, 70. I think the factor, they're 70% through the sales journey sometimes, especially that's on inbound leads before they even engage with a salesperson. And so I would argue though too that salespeople need to be at least 70% more intelligent, right? And know 70% more about their prospect before picking up the phone and building their lists and things like that. And so I think we focus on how the buyer is more intelligent through the internet and these new tools. But I think as sales professionals, we have to think about how do we make ourselves more intelligent, because we have as many tools as that buyer does now to learn about them and their needs and figure out who are the right buyers who can really benefit from the services that we're offering and in what ways can they benefit. And we have those at our fingertips now.
Exactly, and that's a great point, right? Sometimes salespeople, and look, it's not even just salespeople. Really, I'm looking from the top. That's why I said executives, because it starts from the top,
totally.
right? And if it's particularly entrepreneurs, and we'll talk about that, right? If you're a sales entrepreneur, a little bit different story, but also I've seen sales entrepreneurs that have a difficulty scaling, because they're great at getting their company to a certain level because they're the best salesperson and executive and they own the company, but they're trying to hire someone just like them. And I keep telling them, well, you're going to hire a competitor. That's all you're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I want to get into some of that a little bit later. Okay, so some of the misconceptions that they have. Okay, you had mentioned some of that. So how does your company solve some of those perceptions that you're not preparing, you're not doing the research?
Yeah. So the first thing is just like you said, and this goes back to the fundamentals, is you've got to have a strategy. Right? So you've got to think through, really understand what your value proposition is. So we work with our clients to really understand what that value proposition is and how it relates to different types of buyers. And so I think that it's really important to start with that fundamental. If you don't really understand what your value is and who your target customer is, it's going to be very hard to proactively go out and find those types of people and really be able to help them. And so we really work with our clients at the beginning. It's almost a mini consulting assignment where we're really working with them to really define that value proposition. And then what we do is we take that and then we build a multi-channel approach. So, you don't want to just cold call, you want to have informed cold calling, right? As I said, so we need to think through how do we look up the different prospects? How do we build that list through LinkedIn that helps us to know that we're targeting the right types of folks? So we develop all of that, and we have a whole data team that's really going through LinkedIn, through the web, through different data channels to build that list of potential prospects for our clients and really build a good TAM in that way. And then we try to execute on that strategy through the cold calling, through emails and through LinkedIn outreach, and we build a cadence around that. So you can't just call someone, you can't just email them, you can't just leverage LinkedIn. It's really a concerted effort through those are three primary ways, and really building a iterative cadence around that based upon your value proposition to nurture that prospect, give them little value nuggets to learn about them, and then have a meaningful conversation about what their needs are and how we can help them.
Excellent. And let's Keith, can you give me just those 3 bullet points real quick?
Yeah. So the three sort of quivers. So one is having that strategy and understanding how to think through and build that list and of prospects, cold calling through, and then the email LinkedIn cadence that's part of that cold calling strategy.
Okay, awesome. And so let me ask you a question. When should a company outsource for finding qualified leads?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if a company has the resources, the time, and the patience, and the skill set to build a proactive prospecting program, then it's something that they can do internally. But they need to have the knowledge, that they really understand how to use the levers and this multi-channel approach. They need to have the team in place to manage the SDRs, because you can't just throw SDRs into it and just hope that they're going to do great work. You have to have somebody who's going to train them and who's going to coach them and who's going to work with them and really listen to them, hear what's working, what's not working, iterate on the strategy. And then you have to, be able to invest in that process, because it takes time to both build your team and find the right strategy. So if you have those resources, you have that management, you have that time, then it's something you could do internally. If you are a startup company that maybe has some financing but doesn't have a head of inside sales that can really build this type of capability internally, or maybe you don't have the time to dedicate to doing something like this, or you want to really focus on just building your product, closing deals, then it's something to think about outsourcing to an organization that really, this is all they focus on. They have a management team that's thinking about strategies, that's thinking about how to coach, thinking about how to find the best SDRs and place them on your organization, and then iterate that strategy and that process and coach those reps along. It's something potentially to consider outsourcing, because it's not something, this is another misconception, I think. I think some people feel that they can just hire an SDR or hire an inside salesperson and say, okay, go get me leads. It just doesn't work that way. It is a process. Even the best SDRs need management. They need to brainstorm with their manager. They need to talk about what objections they're hitting, what they're running into, go back and forth. And so it is a process. So if you don't feel that you have the resources, the time to invest in that process, then it is usually best outsourced to a company that really has all that capabilities in-house and can do it for you.
No, that makes a lot of sense the way you said it. The one thing that I keep hearing you say, and I'm all on board, is regardless the segment you are in sales, from a leader, from an entrepreneur, it's about processes, right? So lead gen's a process, working your CRM, your pipeline, your sales strategy, how to close. Everything has to be a process, right?
Totally.
So that's that. So the other thing that you made a lot of sense is a couple things. One is startup entrepreneurs, obviously with capital, but I see a lot of times that whether they have capital or not, their first inclination is, hey, let me hire a sales manager, right? Well, that sales manager right off the bat is not going to be producing revenue, right? So you got to kind of figure out, do you have enough of that money? And then two, you have the entrepreneur that normally, from my research, an entrepreneur shouldn't hire any salespeople until they reach the $1 million mark, right? And because once they reach the $1 million mark, they know they hit that, right? That's when they can start selling, because they did everything themselves, right? And then the next part of it is that some of the entrepreneurs that I dealt with, that are some smaller entrepreneurs where they're the main person selling, they can't build that pipeline of qualified leads to get into the first stage of the pipeline, right? And the first way to do that is by lead generation, right? And you don't know that. And if you because they don't want to be on the phone prospecting as an entrepreneur, they feel whatever it feels beneath them until they really need money, then they're going to get on the phone prospecting, right? And then the other things, they have other duties they have to do. But if they had a bunch of qualified leads in front of them, right, and someone's setting it up and teeing it up, nobody sells better than the owner of a company, right? So I just want to bring that up. And so what do you see is is your biggest challenge in sales, and not necessarily, you're challenging your company, but challenge you see in company sales, maybe some challenges you have in your company, right? Whether you're hiring people or finding the right people, but also the challenges you see in companies or talking or speaking with companies that just don't understand the value of you're paying an account manager, a sales representative, director of sales, X amount of dollars, but you're not helping them tee up a bunch of revenue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think first, I think the biggest challenge that I see in sales, and I think it's been ubiquitous. I mean, it's since I started my first inside sales team, which was in '99. I was hired by the VP of sales at an internet startup, and he said, "Listen, go start our inside sales team." I didn't even really know what an inside sales team was at that time, but I learned how to do it. And so even during that boom time, and we see it even more today, is finding the right people. And I know that sounds almost a little cliche and hollow going on it, but I'm gonna break it down, especially with the SDR function, because I do think it is really true. What we see today, especially in the SDR function, is that this is a very hard job, right? So to do intelligent cold prospecting is tough. It's tough to figure out how to do it right. It's tough to have the patience, because it takes a long time to have wins, right? And it can be a frustrating process for the wrong type of person. It can be exhilarating for the right type of person. And so finding that right person, we see with our clients, and we see internally, is a big challenge. So what we've done to address that challenge internally is we've invested heavily in HR, in finding those right types of people and understanding who those right people are. We have a very rigorous interview and testing process. And so we've really invested in trying to find the right types of folks. And then more than that, I don't know if more than that, but we've invested in the culture and the type of company that we have to make it the type of company that these folks want to work at, and make it a place where we attract talent and we attract people, and we don't look at these individuals as commodities, because they are the last thing from a commodity. So that's a big challenge. And then the other thing that we found at our clients, we don't have this because it's a little bit different in an agency, is that it's really hard to find a really good SDR. And so what happens is they'll hire people, and a lot of times they don't work out, right? So there's to do this right, you have to train a lot, you have to coach a lot, you have to invest in the people, and then a lot of times they don't work out. So all of a sudden you've spent all this time, money, recruiting them, training them, coaching them, if you're doing it right, and they don't work out. Then there's the small segment that work out. And a high percentage of those, after about a year and a half, want to get promoted to be an account executive, and then they move out. So this function, unlike almost anything I've seen, is a revolving door for good and for bad. And that is one of the biggest challenges that our clients who've tried to do it internally have said, listen, it's just too much. This is too much of a revolving door. And so that's one of the things that we really try to bring to the table for our clients, is being able to find those folks, but then our retention rate is extremely high to be able to keep those folks, because we're investing in their training, we're investing in their growth, and we want to make sure they stay with us. And that's one of the things we've been able to solve, and we feel is a big challenge out there in the marketplace.
So, and then one more question on the challenge part. What seems to be the challenge when you are trying to secure a client? Like, what are their hesitations, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, to come to SalesRoads, you mean?
Yeah, to come to SalesRoads.
Yeah.
Obviously no one's got 100% close rate, right? So
yeah.
There's some misconceptions. What's some of the sales challenges that you come across as it relates? Because everybody has challenges. I have challenges and so forth with clients. But what kind of challenges do you have when talking to an executive or sales leader or an entrepreneur on why it's important to utilize your service? And either they're a fit or they're not a fit. But what do you see the challenges are on that?
Yeah. So I think that there are a few things. So one is that they feel that this isn't going to work. They feel cold calling is dead, right? They've either tried it internally and it hasn't worked, or they've tried it with another agency and it's fallen flat on their face. And they just need to overcome the hurdle of thinking that this can work. But they're also stuck between a rock and a hard place because you only have so many inbound leads. You only have so many people in your network. And if you're not proactively prospecting, you're going to plateau. And there's only so much growth you can have, and you have competitors knocking at your door, right? So, going back to where I said at the beginning, if you're cold calling's not dead, but if you don't create a proactive cold calling program, you might be dead. So I think clients realize that, but they're skeptical as to whether it can work. So we have to overcome that, and we talk to them about our process, and we show them how we build the strategy and the quality of the SDRs that we have. Our SDRs have on average 14 years of sales experience, whereas a lot of folks, they have millennials that are coming in and going in and out. And so we have to talk them through that. And that's a very understandable concern. So we talk them through that in our process and how we do things in order to make it successful. And then the other thing, which I think is a very real concern, and we take very seriously, is we're representing them as their organization. And so they've got people who are cold calling on their behalf, representing their organization, because we don't call as SalesRoads, right? We call as our client. And so they want to make sure that we're doing that in the right way. And we take that responsibility very seriously, and we actually look at ourselves as an extension or even part of their team. We're just one more division in our client's team. And so they are part of the process as much as they want to be, through the strategy building, through approving that, through the role plays that we do with our SDRs, through the meetings that we have. We like to have weekly meetings with our clients with the SDRs on so they can hear what's working, what's not working. And so we really do take that responsibility very seriously, because that is a real concern for our clients.
Interesting. And what I found is, how do they feel about, well, I want my people here because it's about our culture. That happens to us, right? We manage the sales leaders and some salespeople, but sometimes we want to start them off in our location to get everything right and manage and oversee and train. But then all of a sudden, well, I need them in my office because I want them to be part of the culture and the sales team.
Yeah, and so I would say that first, it's not necessary to be in an office to be part of a culture. And so we actually, our whole model, all of our SDRs are distributed around the country, and we've built one of the most vibrant cultures. And everyone is distributed. I mean, I had one employee say that they wanted to tattoo SalesRoads on their arm. They were so engaged with SalesRoads. And so I don't believe in this day and age that you need to sit in an office to be engaged in a culture. And we've built that at SalesRoads. But then to extend to what you're also saying is, how do we become part of our client's culture? Because that is important. And I think that that's a two-way street that we encourage. So our training and our onboarding process is very rigorous. So our clients, our SDRs are learning as much as about the client, about who they are really representing, as they would sitting in the office. Their LinkedIn profiles become the client's profiles. We invite our clients to be on those trainings if they want to talk to the SDRs, to make them part of it. We're often part of our client Slack channels. We have clients who like to send swag to them, as little spiffs and things like that. And it's all about how you approach the meetings and how you approach the concept. And this is also, I think, can ring hollow, Victor, but I'll say it, thinking of yourself not as a vendor, but as a partner. Like, none of our SDRs feel like they are just an agency. They're part of their team. They're invested in our clients' success. They're excited about the wins that the clients have. They want to be on the regular sales meetings with the clients, be part of the Slack channels, the newsletters. And so we really work to be part of our clients' culture, and our clients who really find that valuable, which I think is valuable, they engage with our SDRs that way as part of their team, not just a vendor. I mean, our SDRs aren't on multiple campaigns. They're not calling on 5 and 6 different campaigns and just reading off of the script. They have an email address from our clients. They have a phone number that is in the local area code. They are part of that company, and so I think it's a good challenge. I think it makes it more successful when that mindset is like that, but I don't think they have to sit in the office to be part of that culture in this day and age.
I would agree with that, especially in the small, medium-sized businesses, right? Because if you look at the very, very large businesses, I'm talking companies over 100, $250 million, right? Because $250 million technically is a small, medium-sized business, right? All those other companies have offices throughout the country. I mean, Microsoft, I've dealt with Microsoft companies, and the people there, I mean, it's no nonsense. You got to hit your numbers, you got to hit your target, and they're spread out throughout the country and the world, right? But they still got a culture.
Right.
So it's just amazing to me that, entrepreneurs out there need to understand that. And sometimes the telecommuting is more beneficial, right? You just got to manage it, and it's all about results. So that's excellent point. And I could see that, right? What you're saying. And why do you think companies, and this is more on another side, a lot of it you said too, but I also wanted to make a comment. It sounds hollow is how you were saying it. The difference is that it is a statement that is hollow, except for you're not saying it being hollow, you're executing. So for me, a hollow statement is stating what you said, but not executing on it, or really stating what you said, because me, you, and a bunch of other executives or entrepreneurs are out, and we're talking, and we make these statements, and everyone's like, yeah, you're right, and it sounds good, and then they go back to their offices and they don't execute on that. To me, that's a hollow statement.
Totally.
Right, and that's where I'm trying to say. For me, it frustrates me because you hear it too much, and then what are you doing? Right? Or they read a 100%. Book and they go, oh, I read that book. This was really great. Okay, great. So are you doing this? Are you doing this? Are you doing this? Okay, why'd you read the book?
Right.
Okay. So the next question is, and we're going to go, so we open up the discussion, is why do you think companies, because this is big and I'm doing a major research on this, spend so little money on investing in their sales leadership and management?
Yeah.
Right? Whether spending money on the entrepreneur who's acting as a sales leader or sales manager, or the entrepreneur who has a sales leader and manager, but are not investing in, if you think about it, if you invest in a sales manager, that sales manager has 5 to 10 or 12 people reporting to them. So it's exponential, the return you're getting. It's not a one-to-one. They're managing a group of people. So what is your thought process? Why are they spending money on training these frontline sales managers?
Yeah. So it's a great question. And I think it probably goes down for a lot. There's probably a few reasons, but I think one of the big reasons is what I believe is a misconception that you can't teach sales, that either you have it or you don't, that there's these natural born salespeople and they're just going to perform. And then there's the people who are just not sales people and they're never going to perform. And for me, this can't be further from the truth. And I think I'm a prime example of that. So I'm a natural introvert. And
you're a natural,
I'm a natural introvert.
Yes.
And so when I first started in sales, I would either on a phone call or if I was in a meeting, be so nervous that you could sometimes not even understand the words that were coming out of my mouth. Like, what's going on? Because I was in a position that I felt like it was not my natural way of being, because I had this conception of what you had to do in sales. And that conception was from movies and things like that, and was not based upon any training I got. So the smartest thing I did was I started reading a lot of books about sales, and I hired a coach to start building and growing myself as a sales professional. And one of the things that I learned is that sales isn't about sitting there and talking to someone and pitching them and just speaking, a natural extrovert, might do. And then there's also obviously lots of ways that an extrovert, but the way I thought you should do sales. But it's the discovery process and asking questions and learning about that prospect and learning about their needs and learning about the issues they have and learning about their company. And as a natural introvert, I'm down for that. I love that. I love asking questions. I love learning about people. I love listening. And I'm an amazing listener. And I'd hear things, and I'd hear what their issues were, and I'd hear about their pain, and I also love solving problems. And so I'd think through, and my sales process became this voyage of discovery, which allowed me to sell. And I talk to people about this a lot. You got to sell within your own skin, right? You can't be someone you're not, but you got to sell within your own skin and understand what that process is that works for you. And I believe that by investing in yourself, or a company investing in sales training, and it is the most amazing investment, because you can take people like myself, who was falling flat on my face, and now I run one of the most successful sales outsourcing companies in the country, just because of that investment I made in myself and training. And so you can take those people who are maybe an untapped gem, who you might think, are never going to be able to learn sales, and make them a top producer. But you also can take those A players that you think just have it, and you can take them to the next level. And you can help retain them, because a lot of people like to grow. They like to continue to learn. And I've found that the best sales people, there's some salespeople that think they know it all, but there are a lot of salespeople, and I believe the best salespeople, who just want to grow every day and learn, and put on tapes and read about sales and be coached. And if you give them that opportunity at your organization, you're more likely to keep those A players, and you're going to take them to the next level. And so I think, Victor, there's a few reasons, but that's one big one, is that conception that sales can't be taught. And from my personal experience, there's nothing further from the truth.
What's funny is you made a lot of great statements, one, and I did the same thing. And now I'm a natural extrovert. Mm-hmm. Right? And but statistically, the best salespeople are introverts, right? Because they don't show up and throw up, or they're not trying to go through, let me build a relationship. And you want to build a relationship, but you build a relationship by solving someone's problem. They're gonna love you. But if you're gonna keep whining and dining, and that happens really large sales, but in other sales, they to me, another hollow statement is it's all about relationship. It's about relationship for networking. It's about relationship for referrals. It's about relationships for, like, me referring companies to you. That's different, right? But it's about problem solving. And then the other thing is, you mentioned sales training for salespeople, which I agree, but more money spent, and this is where I want to just make sure, from my perspective and my experience, the point is that more money is spent on training salespeople than sales managers. Yeah. Well, then you get a top salesperson who's promoted to a sales manager and does not know how to manage the salespeople. Yeah. You understand? So my frustration goes back to training the sales leader, the sales manager, who has salespeople under them, and investing also in those salespeople. But you're going to get an exponential effect training a sales manager, right? And to some degree, some of these entrepreneurs that want to grow, they need sales leadership and management training, because there's leadership, right? And there's management, but then sales leadership and sales management, there are some parallels, but there are a lot of distinctive differences. Right. And what kills me 100%. Is that there's not a lot of colleges that teach sales, right? I mean, you have an MBA, right?
I do. Yeah. I didn't get one sales class.
And from one of the best, business schools in the country. Right. How many of my friends tell me the same thing, that I got MBAs? He goes, Vic, you get an MBA to be able to run a company. So they teach you zero about sales. Now, things have changed, but, me being 54 a long time ago, most CEOs came through the ranks of sales. Now 100%. They're technical, or it's financial, or so forth. But, the rest of them came through sales, right? So I think that's valid. Investing in yourself, investing in your team. I think it shouldn't be only invested. The investment shouldn't only come from the business or the company. The person's got to want to have their own investment, right? And put that investment in themselves. So it should be a combination. You invest in yourself, and your company should be investing in you. All right. So, and then I want to ask, I got a few other pieces that we're going to go to there. What book are you reading, or what's the last book you're reading?
Yeah, so I just read Multipliers, which was fascinating for me, and it is about, and I think that's about one of the key things for sales leaders, I think, to read, because a lot of times as sales leaders, and this is a good, based upon also the thing that you said, is that when you're promoted into sales or sales management, a lot of times you want to, and also your CEO wants you to just clone yourself, right? But you've got to allow your sales team to, first of all, sell within their own skin, and also learn the process that works for them. And you can't just prescribe it. And so if you come into every sales meeting, or if you'd ride along with them, or you're on a call with them, and you basically take over that conversation because you feel like they're doing something wrong, or they're going, you would do something in a different way, you might leave that individual sales meeting in a way that has a higher likelihood of closing, but you've done more harm than good, because you've actually, first of all, not necessarily taught your salesperson to do the right thing, because they're going to just try to do it the way you did, and that might not be right for them, right? They might not be able to replicate it. But secondly, you've diminished them, right? You basically said you can't do this. And so now, are you going to go and ride along on every sales meeting? Are you going to go and be on every single call with them? How scalable is that, right? And so the concept behind Multipliers is that if you approach management in a way that you are trying to continually grow and teach your team, right, versus just basically do things for them, which is a lot of times what management is doing, right? You can get 4 times the productivity out of those people that are working for you. And so it was really, it's a fascinating book on trying to approach management as a multiplier versus as a diminisher.
And that's by Gladwell, no?
That's not Gladwell. Liz Wiseman, I think.
Liz Wiseman, okay. Liz,
yeah.
Liz Wiseman. Okay, so that way everybody knows. Okay, so that's great, David. Okay, so I'm going to mention a couple pieces that you wrote down. So here's what I want to give some people some takeaways, right, as we're wrapping this up. And you could decide if you want to talk a lot about this, and then I want to hear, tell about your company. But what I found is a lot of companies do a terrible job of identifying their ideal target client. Mm-hmm. Right? And they don't like starting with that. They think they could sell to everybody. That's not true. Walmart doesn't sell to everybody, right? Now, everybody can go in there if they want to, but there's certain, there's class of people don't want to go in there. Target has its own client. McDonald's has its own client. Morton Steakhouse has a different client, right? So you can't sell to everybody. If you try to do that, you won't be great. The other thing is your unique value proposition. They're terrible at that, right? They're terrible. And what we teach, and I don't know where you're from, your value proposition has to be about the outcomes of what you deliver for a client, right? There's your unique value proposition. And then I see the segmenting of a list. So you've also segmented list building to someone, correct?
Oh yeah, so it's so important, is building that right list.
Okay, and then you also talked about cadence, and that's another thing that I do not see in companies or entrepreneurs in their companies. They don't even understand what a cadence is, right? So cadence by definition is a rhythmic flow, right, to come to an end result. Right. Mm-hmm. And what happens is, again, statistically, 90% of salespeople give up after 2 attempts. Mm-hmm. If you put a sales cadence in, that sales cadence is going to require you to make 9 to 15 attempts. Mm-hmm. Right. Because you got to follow the steps. And another piece that you mentioned, and I just want to recap some of your conversation, is that, you go out there and you do your stuff and they want to see how you do it and they're enamored. So if I go out there and go, oh my God, that was great, I want to be just like that. I teach, look, the fundamentals need to be the same, but I need you to be you.
Absolutely.
Adapt it to how you're, if I'm an extrovert and you're an introvert, you can't do what I'm going to do. Right. Exactly. Number one. Number two, you got to understand the years of experience and learning and practice that I have that you need to get to, but understand the fundamentals that I'm teaching you. I always tell people, and I get calls today that we'll develop, we'll transform people, and 2 years later they'll call me up and say, Victor, what you taught me, I used, and it was amazing. What we teach today may not work right at this moment, but just we're building up all your tools to put in your toolbox.
100%.
Makes sense. A process, and the other thing is finding the right person. Now, and then I want to get into your piece. Finding the right person, and that's a challenge, right? Because what happens is that companies don't understand the differences between the type of salespeople they are. They lump salespeople into just one category, right? And my experience and research, there's 5 distinct types of salespeople. The other books will tell you there's 4, but either case they're similar, right? You got the hunter that enjoys hunting, prospecting, moving on quick, getting that up, set up, and teeing it up. You have an account manager. That account manager is given a book of business, right? And their job is to maintain it and grow it, but not at the same pace as new business. But don't lose the client, and make sure that you're putting all the strategies in to keep that client base. Then you have the farmer, what we call a farmer, or a person that is planting seeds. They have less clients, and they deal with like enterprise clients to see what other things that we could have that we could solve more problems for them. Then you got the closer, right? And the closer likes things being teed up. So like if you're setting up the lead piece and they get the information, now they come in, it's their function to be able to close. They like that being teed up because it takes too much time, because they're more strategic. Then you have the consultative seller that everybody should aspire to become, but they're just different. They're the questions. They're going to ask questions. They're going to do, it's like a doctor. They're going to ask really what are the ramifications of the challenges you have. Make sense? All right.
100%.
And so with that, I just wanted to bring those up because you made some great points. So, David, tell us a little bit about your company and how can people reach you to either have a question, discussion. They're going to be able to ask questions here. We're going to respond to them. I'll send them to you. We'll respond to the people. And so one, a little bit about your company, and 2, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so SalesRoads is a business-to-business lead generation and appointment setting and sales outsourcing company. So really, if somebody is struggling to figure out how to rapidly accelerate their sales, if they have a sales team that just isn't hitting quota, or they're not hitting their sales numbers, and they need to figure out strategies to be able to help them and tee up their sales team for success. Those are some of the situations where we really can help our clients. Either if you just have some questions, happy to, of course, answer some questions. If it's something that people want to talk about, really having a full division that is supporting their team and helping them to accelerate their sales, helping them to crush their quota, helping them to hit their sales numbers through generating qualified appointments for their team. We'd love to have that conversation with them. And so they can, folks can always come to our website. It's www.salesroads.com. That's just one word, salesroads.com, or they can call it
Roads with an S.
With an S, so 2 S's. Yep, SalesRoads.com. And our phone number is 800-836-4033, or you can always email me just at david@salesroads.com. Happy just to connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to answer any questions people have. And Victor, thanks so much for having me here. This was a lot of fun. I always have great conversations with you. I really enjoyed it.
I think we're gonna do another one because we can expand upon what we're doing. So I think this was great. And some takeaways I want to leave the audience with, both from my experience and what you said, is this about lead generation. And you correct me if I'm wrong. Number one is, you got to generate the right list of who you're going to go after. And that goes with creating your target market. It's
100%.
not that. I always look at it, creating a target market, that's the red bullseye, and then there's some outliers, but anything that's off that board, leave it alone. Now, it doesn't mean you won't take some of these clients, but you want to hunt the best of the best. Okay. And then 2, once you get that list, preparation. Right? You got to prepare. And I love the statement you made that, everyone, that's another one. Everyone will say, today's buyer is 70% more intelligent than they were before. But it's nice to hear as well, as a sales professional, as a sales leader, as a company that wants to grow revenue, your team has to be 70% prepared as well. Whether it's the competition, learning the company, understanding the players, their likes, their dislikes, commonality. So you have that. And then your value proposition and understanding how to ask questions. So if you want to lead generate, those are the top pieces that you need to do at least to get started and have people managing that process.
100%.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank everybody. This is the ugly truth about sales. Again, the ugly truth always means it's only about, don't make the statements that you're not going to follow through on. Okay. And follow through. Don't, if you're going to talk the talk, walk the walk. Don't just try to sit around a bunch of people and make these business, I don't know if they're cliches or statements, and then just don't, not apply it into yourself or to your companies. Okay. Again, I'm Victor Roach, our great guest, David Kreiger from SalesRoads. And we are looking forward again to another entrepreneurial interview. We have another one this afternoon. We have one on Friday, and everything's going to be about sales related. So I want you to get the tips out of it. You're going to see this on YouTube. You're going to see this on Facebook. If you want some of the transcripts, we'll be able to provide them for you as well. And follow me again. Please subscribe to our channel so you can get everything that you want from YouTube. Follow me at Via Rocho on Twitter, and then my website's victorrocho.com, where there's a bunch of free items there, and you'll see all our podcasts. Well, David, as always, it's great speaking with you. I think there's more that I'd like to continue talking to you about, but we want to keep this in our time frame. And you have an excellent day, and sell to greatness, baby.
Sounds great, Victor.
I always
Thanks so much.
Bring the trophy home.
No, this is great. Really appreciate it.
You have a great day, brother.
You too. Thanks, Victor.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.